The Dynasty Begins, the Birth of Kim Jong-un, 1984. Introduction, a new heir is born. In February 1984, the birth of Kim Jong-un marked a pivotal moment for North Korea. Born into the powerful Kim dynasty, he became the third generation in a family that had ruled the nation with an iron grip since its founding in 1948. While many saw his birth as another extension of the family's political dominance, it also symbolized the beginning of a new chapter, one that would ultimately redefine the nation's path and its role on the global stage. The 1980s were a critical period for North Korea. The country, under Kim Il-sung's leadership, was striving to maintain its image as a self-reliant socialist utopia. However, beneath the surface, cracks in the system were beginning to appear. The global Cold War climate was shifting, and North Korea's dependency on aid from allies like the Soviet Union and China was becoming more apparent. In this backdrop, the birth of Kim Jong-un was not just a family affair. It was a carefully managed political moment. This introduction to the youngest Kim laid the foundation for what many believed would be a continuation of the dynasty's rule. But who was Kim Jong-un? And how did his birth fit into the larger story of the Kim family's legacy? The early years. A mysterious childhood. Little is known about Kim Jong-un's childhood, and much of what we know comes from defectors, unverified accounts, and state propaganda. Born to Kim Jong-il, the enigmatic and reclusive leader of North Korea, and his consort Ko Young-hui, Kim Jong-un's early life was anything but ordinary. Kim was reportedly raised in Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, in an environment of privilege and isolation. His family lived in luxurious compounds, shielded from the hardships faced by ordinary citizens. This stark divide between the ruling elite and the general population was a hallmark of the Kim dynasty's rule. As a child, Kim Jong-un was described as intelligent and determined, traits that would later become evident in his leadership style. He was also said to be fiercely competitive, particularly with his siblings. His older brother, Kim Jong-nam, was initially the heir apparent, but a series of missteps, including an infamous attempt to visit Disneyland in Japan, led to his fall from grace. These early family dynamics shaped Kim Jong-un's understanding of power and loyalty. One of the most intriguing aspects of Kim Jong-un's childhood is his time spent abroad. He reportedly attended school in Switzerland under a false identity. During this period, he was exposed to Western culture, forming an interest in basketball and technology. This duality, being both a product of North Korea's rigid, isolationist regime and a child who experienced the outside world, would later define his leadership approach. The Kim dynasty, a legacy of power. To fully grasp Kim Jong-un's place in history, it is necessary to delve into the foundations laid by his grandfather Kim Il-sung and his father Kim Jong-il. The Kim dynasty is not just a political entity. It is an institution that has shaped North Korea's identity, politics, and global relations. Central to this dynasty's dominance are the principles of Juche, a philosophy of self-reliance, and Songun, the military-first policy. These ideologies were more than mere slogans. They became the ideological backbone of the state, ensuring the population's loyalty and the regime's survival. Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea, established a system where loyalty to the leader became the highest virtue. Through relentless propaganda, he was elevated to near-divine status, portrayed as the eternal leader and the father of the Korean people. His portraits adorned every public building, and his words became law. This cult of personality was not merely a tool for governance. It was a method of cementing the Kim family's role as the unchallenged rulers of North Korea. When Kim Il-sung passed away in 1994, his son, Kim Jong-il, inherited not just the title of leader, but also the legacy of an iron-fisted rule. Kim Jong-il took his father's methods and refined them further. Fear, surveillance, and the militarization of society became the cornerstones of his rule. Under his leadership, the Songun policy emerged as the guiding principle of governance, prioritizing the military above all else. This ensured that the Kim dynasty remained unchallenged both domestically and internationally. By the time Kim Jong-un was born in 1984, the Kim dynasty had already become synonymous with absolute power and authority. The family was no longer merely ruling North Korea. They had become the very embodiment of its identity. The pressure on Kim Jong-un to carry forward this legacy was immense. He was born into a family that was not just leading a nation, but also crafting a narrative of invincibility and divine right to rule. For Kim Jong-un, inheriting this legacy meant walking a tightrope between maintaining the traditions of his forebears and adapting to the rapidly changing world. The Kim dynasty's foundation ensured his path to power was preordained, but it also placed the weight of a nation's expectations squarely on his shoulders. Preparing the future leader. Kim Jong-un's grooming for leadership began early, as he was raised in an environment that revolved around power, control, and unwavering loyalty to the dynasty. Unlike ordinary children, his childhood was spent in the shadows of North Korea's political machine. His father, Kim Jong-il, took an active role in ensuring that his son understood the complexities of ruling a nation that thrived on fear and absolute loyalty. Even as a child, Kim Jong-un was exposed to the workings of the state. He observed the machinery of propaganda, the manipulation of public perception, and the mechanisms of control that kept the regime in power. His father's careful planning ensured that Kim Jong-un was not just a spectator, but a participant in the dynasty's legacy. While Kim Jong-il did not publicly announce his successor until much later, it became increasingly evident within the family that Kim Jong-un was the chosen one. Unlike his siblings, he displayed a keen interest in military strategy, politics, and governance. His older brother, Kim Jong-nam, once seen as the heir apparent, fell from grace after a series of blunders, most notably his attempt to visit Disneyland in Japan using a fake passport. This incident marked a turning point, solidifying Kim Jong-un's position as the preferred successor. Kim Jong-un's education in Switzerland further set him apart. Studying abroad under a false identity, he was exposed to Western culture, which added a unique dimension to his perspective. While his time in Switzerland remains shrouded in mystery, accounts suggest that he developed a passion for basketball and became fluent in foreign languages. This exposure to the outside world gave him insights that his predecessors lacked, making him a leader who could straddle two very different worlds. Despite his relatively low profile during the 1990s and early 2000s, Kim Jong-un was quietly building his network of loyalists within the government and military. His father's declining health in the mid-2000s further accelerated his rise to prominence. By 2009, state media began referring to him as the brilliant comrade, a clear signal that he was being positioned as the next leader. This period marked the beginning of Kim Jong-un's public emergence as a key figure in North Korea's political landscape. The global stage, a future leader's challenges. Kim Jong-un's birth occurred during a turbulent period for North Korea. The 1980s were a time of significant challenges for the country. Its economy was stagnating, its people were suffering from increasing hardships, and its isolation on the global stage was deepening. For a future leader, these challenges presented a daunting task: maintaining the dynasty's control while addressing the growing vulnerabilities of the state. The international landscape was also undergoing dramatic shifts. The Cold War was drawing to a close, and North Korea's traditional allies, the Soviet Union and China, were undergoing transformations that would alter their relationships with Pyongyang. The collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s further exacerbated North Korea's economic struggles, as the country lost a key source of aid and support. For Kim Jong-un, inheriting this legacy meant navigating a nation that was both a relic of the Cold War and a volatile player on the modern global stage. His birth symbolized the continuation of a system that relied heavily on propaganda, secrecy, and fear. However, it also hinted at the potential for change. His exposure to Western culture during his education abroad suggested that he might bring a different perspective to North Korea's leadership. Challenges awaiting Kim Jong-un were immense. He would have to balance the expectations of his family's legacy with the need to address North Korea's domestic and international crises. His leadership would require a delicate combination of maintaining control, leveraging propaganda, and exploring new avenues for survival in a rapidly changing world. The significance of 1984, a turning point in the Kim dynasty. The year 1984 was not just the year of Kim Jong-un's birth. It was a significant turning point in the history of the Kim dynasty. As Kim Il-sung aged and Kim Jong-il began assuming more responsibilities, the question of succession became increasingly pressing. The birth of Kim Jong-un provided a sense of continuity, ensuring that the dynasty's rule would extend into a third generation. This event reinforced the idea of hereditary leadership in North Korea. It sent a clear message to both domestic and international audiences. The Kim dynasty was here to stay. The concept of dynastic rule became deeply ingrained in North Korean society, shaping the nation's political and cultural identity. Kim Jong-un's birth was not just a personal milestone for the Kim family, it was a political statement. It symbolized the resilience of the dynasty and its ability to adapt and endure in the face of changing circumstances. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter in North Korea's history, one that would be defined by Kim Jong-un's leadership and the challenges he would face. Conclusion. The dawn of a new era. Kim Jong-un's birth in 1984 was more than just the arrival of a new member of the Kim family. It was a moment that symbolized the endurance of one of the world's most secretive and controversial regimes. As the years passed, Kim Jong-un would rise to power, facing challenges that would test his leadership and his family's legacy. The story of his birth and early years is a reminder of the intricate dynamics that shape dictatorships. It is a tale of power, loyalty, and the weight of history, a legacy that continues to shape the destiny of North Korea.